I got started in the wrestling business becoming acquainted with Jackie Fargo. I met the Fabulous One when I was 14 years old, and I went to wrestling matches that were promoted by Nick Gulas and Roy Welch at Memorial Auditorium in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I met Jackie Fargo at the Maypole restaurant one night, and we became friends, and ever since then we've been the best of friends, and that's how I got in the wrestling business. Norm Vesey was a ring announcer, and I had a great voice, and they wanted me to try out for the ring announcer job. So I tried out for the ring announcer job, and the rest is history. I learned from that and moved right along.
How old were you when you first got introduced?
14 years old.
And you did ring announcing at that age?
I did ring announcing at 14. Nick didn't care how old you were, as long as you could talk.
You were obviously a fan before you got into wrestling.
Oh, I loved the wrestling business. Eddie Graham, if you remember Eddie Graham was my mother's cousin. So he is a cousin of mine, say fourth cousin. His real name was Eddie Gossett. He had a paper out there in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
And talk about some of the people that you were fans of as a kid growing up.
Growing up, I was fans of the Fargos. The Fargos were the first team in wrestling that ever really revolutionized wrestling, Jackie and Don Fargo. And in those days, it was 2 out of 3 falls. All matches were, and they would change tights between each fall. They were very colorful. They had the long blonde hair, the fabulous Fargo strut, the sequin outfits. They were really the first flamboyant team in professional wrestling. I also was a great fan of Gorgeous George. He was another one that revolutionized wrestling. Tojo Yamamoto was he wasn't a fan favorite, but he was a favorite of mine. Corsica Joe and Gene, the Welch clan, Herb Welch, Jack Welch, Lester Welch, the list goes on and on.
And you were living in Chattanooga
I was
then?
living in Chattanooga at the time, yes.
Talk about the territorial system around the Chattanooga and the Gulfport area.
I like to remember those as the good old days. That was when it was wrestling territories. You didn't have one person dominating everything. You had Memphis on Monday night for the Nick Gulas era. Tuesday night you had Louisville, Kentucky. Wednesday night, Evansville, Indiana. Thursday night, we went to Lexington, Kentucky. Friday night was usually Tupelo, Mississippi. Saturday morning was Nashville TV at 9 o'clock in the morning. Then that night, we went back to Nashville, Tennessee for a show at the fairgrounds. Sunday, sometimes we would run 2 shows, one in the afternoon and one at night, spot shows. So we were quite busy in those days.
And you were 14 when you started the ring announcing. Did you make all those travels at that time?
Yes, I made those travels, very much so. I didn't make a lot of money, but I gained a lot of experience, and I met a lot of people.
And how'd you get around? Who drove you around when you were 14? Because obviously you were...
I had friends in low places.
Low places?
Low places. I rode with a lot of the wrestlers, and I would ride with them.
And what ultimately got you from doing ring announcing to the world of managing?
Because I could always talk, and I had a gift to gab, and I worked my way up. I did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I did TV commentating and things like that, and that's how I got into it. And then one day somebody came up to me, I believe it was Nick Gulas, and he said, "Fat Albert," as he affectionately called me, "why don't you be a manager, boy? You can really talk. You need to be a manager." And I was always reluctant to do that because my family was there, and my mother hated professional wrestling. She didn't like for me to even go to the matches. So I kind of held back and held back and held back until one day I decided, well, I'm just going to get into the business. I had met a lot of interesting people, and you meet a lot of characters in those days, and anybody that was anybody at one time came through Nick Gulas' territory. Nick was the dean of Southern wrestling. Him and Roy Welch.
Why do so many people, they don't speak very highly of him as a promoter?
They didn't speak very highly of him because he was not a very good payoff man. But you gained experience. You didn't make a lot of money, but you gained a lot of experience, and he would bring in big stars. So you got to meet and work with the biggest stars. Back in those days, it was the NWA, and you would have the world champion. The world champion would come into Nick's territory, and he would defend his title, and they worked together. There wasn't a lot of bickering back then. You would bring Andre the Giant in. He would be on loan from Vince McMahon Sr. Nick and Vince McMahon Sr. were tight, so they would swap talent back and forth. And they worked together quite a bit. And he would do business with Bob Geigel. He would do business with Jim Barnett. He would do business with the Crockett's. And he would try to do business with the Jarretts and sometimes they wouldn't do business with him, but that's a different story. That's leading up to the big split.